What's up, folks? It's your boy Coach Ty back at you with another one. Today we've got obliques, the moment you've all been waiting for. This will be our second to last body part guide. So please enjoy, like, comment, subscribe, and share, and let's get straight into it. Here we go. Let's get to the anatomy. Now, for clarification's sake, we are going to be talking about the external oblique and not the internal oblique. The muscles of your abdomen have several layers to them, and most people, of course, when they're looking for oblique or ab advice, are looking for the most external layer of those muscles. So we're going to keep this discussion to the external oblique. The external oblique extends from the lower half of the ribs all the way down to the pelvis. The external oblique covers the side of your trunk and are a relatively large muscle, sitting on the top layer just below a layer of subcutaneous fat. And again, of course, the internal oblique sits just underneath the external oblique. Now, let's jump over to the functions. The primary function of the oblique is to help rotate the trunk, so basically twisting at the spine. The oblique also assists the abdominals in performing crunch-like motions, so bringing the rib cage towards the pelvis and flexing your spine. Stabilizing the core is another primary function, and I want to harp on this one a little bit longer than the other ones because, again, much like the abdominals, and check my abdominal body part guide if you haven't seen it already, the abs and the obliques are slightly different than many of our other or pretty much all of our other muscles in that not only do they induce movement, but they prevent movement. The abdominals and the obliques are trying to protect your spine. So not only will the obliques help you rotate your trunk, but they also want to prevent you from rotating too far, because if you rotate too far, then that can lead to a spinal injury. Same thing with the abs. It not only wants to flex your spine, but it wants to keep you from flexing or hyperextending too far to prevent you from sustaining a spinal injury. So stabilization of the core is an important function for the obliques, and because of that, we're going to have a few exercises in our selection section that are holds, that require stabilizing, that are for the purpose of preventing movement and not just inducing movement. And our last function is assisting with lateral flexion from side to side. So most people will have done side bends before. Just think side bend, where you lean to one side and then back up. One more point on oblique training. The obliques and abdominals, again, these are very similar muscles, so a lot of the same principles apply. The obliques are a stabilizer muscle. So again, they are active during just about anything you do, from squats to deadlifts to bench presses to overhead presses, chin-ups, pull-ups, all of it pretty much. Anything that requires stabilization of the core, the obliques will be active. And so I would encourage you to, if you're not at a lean enough body fat percentage, which is usually 12 for males, but can vary, and maybe 15 or 16 for females, but also can vary. If you're not at those leaner body fat percentages, then you shouldn't be worried about ab or oblique training, because the issue is not whether you have abs or obliques. You do. If you didn't, you wouldn't be able to stand upright. Everybody has abs and obliques. The problem is the layer of subcutaneous fat on top of your abs and obliques. So you don't need to get abs and obliques, you need to reveal your abs and obliques by getting leaner. So lean out first, see what you're working with, so to speak. And if you are satisfied with the way they look already, then again, there's no real need to add any additional training on top of this. Because again, they are being trained with pretty much all the other exercises that you're doing, especially for the obliques, your single-sided exercises. The obliques have to work very hard to keep you from going one direction or another. Okay, let's get to our exercise selection section. Here we go. First one, anti-lateral flexion. So as I said earlier, we're trying to stabilize the core, and this is one of those moves that fit into that category. Forearm side plank. This is a good place to start if you've never done a side plank before. And if you want to start progressing, either up the time or put a dumbbell on your hips. Same thing here with the hand side plank. You can throw a dumbbell on your hips because you're on your hand and there's more distance, there's a longer lever here. This is going to be a more difficult variation. So once you're comfortable with the forearm, move to the hand side plank and then start adding dumbbells onto your hip. Next, we have lateral flexion, the oblique Bosu crunch. So lay on your side, and I like using the Bosu because it allows the spine to extend and flex with a pretty long range of motion. So try to bring that elbow towards your knee and flex your obliques really hard. The one challenge with this exercise is progressing it, but doing this for high reps, pretty good. Next, the cable side bend. So you might notice I have the cable up higher than you might have otherwise seen. This is because the fibers of the obliques run not horizontally, of course, but at a higher angle than most people give it credit for. So having the cable up higher will better match the line of fibers for the obliques. So you should really feel this one. This one is probably my favorite. And then moving on to the cable wood chopper. This is our rotation move. You can have the cable up higher or about shoulder height or a little bit lower. Nothing is incorrect per se. Just make sure you keep your hips forward and you make all the rotation happen at the spine and not at the hips. This is a common mistake with this exercise where people will start to rotate their entire bodies. Again, the obliques act on the spine. So if your hips and legs are doing any of the movement, then that means the obliques largely will not. All right, folks, that's it for our oblique guide. I hope that was helpful. As always, please like, comment, subscribe, and share. I will have 2 more videos in the corners for you here in a second. And let me know what you want to hear from me next. I'm Coach Ty, and I will see you with the next one. Deuces.